When we're navigating a Colab notebook, such as this one, so far we've been looking at text cells, excuse me. And you can see that when I click on a cell in a notebook, there's a little gray outline around that cell. And that highlights, and this is now the active cell. And there are some operations that I can do over here, like shift the cell up or shift the cell down. I can delete it. I can perhaps add some comments to it and so on. And there are also code cells. So there are just two types of cells that I can have in a Colab notebook, a text cell and a code cell. And down here is an example of a code cell. And in this code cell, I'm running an operation, which is take 731 and multiply it with 123. And I can run this code cell. This is basically just like operating as a calculator. To compute this product, I can, for example, run the code cell by hitting the play button. I get a warning that says, hey, this notebook was not authored by Google. This is living in GitHub, authored by me. I promise you this is a totally safe notebook. So it's just asking you to authorize to run this notebook, run anyway. And now it's going to just initialize this notebook and run it. And we can see below what the result of that calculation is. So there's going to be two types of cells, text cells and code cells down below that we can run. And I've set up this notebook ready to roll. If you want to edit any of these code cells or text cells, you can double click on them. So for example, if I wanted to edit this text cell to delete anything or add some text or change the formatting, I can double click on a text cell. And now I can see kind of the unformatted raw text in the background. And I can make some changes to this, like blah, blah over here, and say add some bullets over here. And now I can see those changes were updated in the text cell. If I want to edit a code cell, such as maybe I want to now add 2 to this product, I could say 731 times 123. And then, just to be really clear, first take this product and then add 2 to it. I could change that as well. So you can click on a text cell or a code cell and edit them. If you want to insert a new blank code cell or a new blank text cell and edit a fresh text cell or a fresh code cell, then when you hover over the edge of, there are multiple ways to do some of these actions, by the way. But one way to do this is if you hover over the edge of any cell in your notebook, a text or a code cell, you see these little buttons that say insert a code cell or insert a text cell. And I can click on the plus code cell, and that inserts a new code cell that I can say add 1 plus 3. Or I can insert a new text cell and say above we added 1 and 3. And here I've added a code cell, and here I've added a text cell, for example. And what's nice for navigation purposes, if you want to kind of move around a Colab document, on the side, you have these on the kind of left toolbar. We have different options, and one of them is to click on a table of contents. And so over here, you can see based on how I put headers in each of the text cells of this Colab notebook, this might help navigate around the document rather than scroll. If you have a really long document, you might not want to scroll all the way around. You can pop around using the headers to different code cells. So I can't put headers on the code cells, excuse me, but I can put headers on the text cells. And so I can use the table of contents to link through different text cells in a Colab notebook. And kind of the last warning I want to give in this first video, and I'm going to break this up into a couple of videos. So I'll pick up in the next video with where we leave off here, is that right now, what I'm looking at is a Colab notebook, which is a shared notebook. So if you're familiar with working with Google Docs, this is a shared notebook that I don't have edit privileges for. All I have is view privileges for. So I've made some changes to this document, but I'm unable to save those changes because, again, this is a shared document that anybody in the world is able to open this document and work on it. So right now you can imagine, there might be 10 different people simultaneously working on this document, making their own changes to it, and nobody is able to see the changes that somebody else is making someplace else. Okay. If you want to save the changes that you are making to your own version of this document, you need to save your own individual version of this document. And so you can see up top, it says save in GitHub to keep changes. So this is very, very important to note that if I just close my browser right now, I will get a warning that says, hey, do you want to save your changes? By default, it's not going to save my changes. So what you would want to do, and there are instructions down below, is you're going to want to save a copy of this notebook to the drive. And so that means you're going to need to have a Google account in order to work with the Colab notebooks that we're going to be using this semester. So if you don't have a Google account, that's kind of the one tech requirement that you're going to need this semester, is that you're going to need to set up a Google account. Those are 100% free. So all you're going to need to do is set up a Google account so you have access to Google Drive, which is like a cloud file sharing or just a cloud system where you can store files. And the only files that you're going to really need to store there, at least for our class, are going to be Colab notebooks. So assuming you have a Google account or that you've set up a Google account, once you open up a Google notebook, you're going to want to copy that to the drive. So for example, I open up this notebook. Probably the very first thing I want to do is click the copy to drive button. Now you can see this notebook is called copy of O1. Whatever the name of the original notebook was. I've got the changes that I made to this notebook copied into my own version. And now this is my version of the notebook. So whatever changes I made to this notebook are going to be saved. And you can see over here, it says when those changes were made. If I want to save my changes, I can, do Control S, or if I'm using a Mac, do Command S, and it's saved. Now you can see over here, all changes were saved. It does have an auto save. I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you're saving your changes yourself periodically as you're working with this document. And now this file is going to be saved in the drive, in the cloud, the Google Drive. It's going to be saved in a folder, which is called Colab Notebooks in your drive. And then you're free to take this notebook. You can rename it and call it whatever you like by editing the name up here. And you can move this notebook around wherever you like inside of your drive if you want to organize your files into different folders, however you like. But the important thing to note is that when you initially open the notebooks that are linked in Canvas or that are linked in the description of this video, these are shared notebooks. You can run the code cells, you can edit the text cells, you can do whatever you like to these shared notebooks. But if you want to save those changes, you're going to need to copy that notebook to your own individual notebook in your own drive by clicking this copy to drive button. And now over here, you'll have your own version. And you can notice the difference by over here. It says all changes saved, as opposed to this warning over here, which says, save your own version of this notebook. Okay, so that's a wrap for this first video. I'll pick up with a separate video that kind of starts to work through a little bit more of how you start to work with programming in R, working through the rest of this Colab notebook in Google Colab. Thanks, everybody.